All right, well, I want to welcome everyone here today. My name is Anthony DeAnda. I'm the executive chef at Fairview Park here in Dublin, Georgia. And I'm so happy to be here today doing this heart-healthy cooking demo. We're going to go through a few nice recipes that not only are going to be tasty, I think educational to a certain degree, things we're going to talk about, and but also we're going to be great for the heart, and some tasty recipes that I think will not only be healthful but flavorful as well. So I want to welcome everybody in. First thing, a couple things we're going to talk about are what we're producing, what we're going to go through today. So we're going to have two recipes. We're going to talk about how and where to source some fresh whole chicken, what you'll do with that chicken once you get it home, but also some of the options that you have out there. There's a big farm to table movement where you can go to a local purveyor, support a local farm, and also be able to get you a different quality that maybe you'll get it comes from the freezer section in the grocery store. So we'll talk about those things. We'll talk about what organic is or is not, and what you're really paying for when you go to the grocery store. That is a misconception that organic must be healthier. Wow, look at this price point. This squash is $4 more than this squash, and what am I paying for? And then ultimately talk about these two recipes. So we're going to do a garlic lemon chicken from the whole chicken that we have, and then we're also going to do one of my personal favorites, Brussels sprouts, and they're going to have a raw honey and balsamic glaze on them, and that is going to be a very healthy way to eat, but packed with flavor. Healthy food does not have to be tasteless, and I enjoy opening people's eyes up to what is possible. So glad that you joined us today. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get started. So first thing first is that there are some local here to Dublin, Georgia. There are some local places that you can source all kinds of ingredients. There is no right or wrong in with today's rising costs and the way that inflation has affected all of us at home, at our dinner table. You want to get the best bang for your buck, and you want to make sure that you also, as you look for healthy options, find something that makes sense for you. So a couple local purveyors that I've come across since I've been here in town I work directly with. It's A&G Farms here in Dublin, and they produce hydroponic, some of the most tasty lettuce that I've ever had. 5 or 6 different varieties, from Russian kale to Bib lettuce, and just have some beautiful product. You can go see them. You can pick the lettuce yourself. You can talk with them and have them educate you on what is so special about this product that they produce. The cost is not going to be exorbitant next to what you might pay at the grocery store, but there's a huge value to be had. The lifespan, to know that you are supporting a local family that is producing and finding a way to give your family a healthy option is really nice. There's also Sundown Farms that does a lot of meat company. In Dexter they have a beautiful farmers market, the Dexter Meat Company, and those options. All these purveyors have different options, from chicken to pork to beef. And when you purchase a free range chicken, or people talk about, well, okay, so what is so special about a grass fed beef, or a free range chicken? Free range chicken is going to be very different because it's going to eat the kind of diet that is very diverse, that comes from nature. It's a very active, athletic bird, as opposed to a chicken that comes from a chicken farm. Same thing with with family-owned meat companies or farms that run a cattle service. They feed and care for those animals in a different way, and a healthier, happier animal in its life is going to yield a higher quality product in the end. So what we have here is a free range chicken. That's going to be the second recipe that we talk about, and talk about how to process it, how to break it down, a very simple recipe on how to prepare it. And then what we're going to start with is Brussels sprouts. Now, just like these local farms can provide this product, also can you find produce in the same way? So organic produce. Let's talk about that for a second. A lot of people become confused on what organic is or is not. You can pay a lesser price point for organic Brussels sprout, or what would be considered a regular Brussels sprout versus organic Brussels sprout. Typically, the shelf life is going to be longer. They have not been treated with pesticides. They have not, when they are grown, they are free of all these other contaminants that, if they're in the soil, they're in the vegetable. If it's in the feed that the cow, takes in, then it's in the meat. So that it's healthier from that point. But what I've found is that you have to make a decision for you what makes sense, on a budget. But fresh is always best versus frozen or canned, and that technology has come a long way. But today we have fresh Brussels sprouts. We have a raw, unadulterated honey. Now, honey is a difficult one. A lot of honey that you can buy has all sorts of other things inside of it. And if you look on the label, you will find out that even though that honey is sold in Georgia, it may have come from another country. It may have come from Vietnam, or it may have come from South America. It may have come from lots of different places. Honey is big business, and they mix lots of things into it. But this honey here is local. It is raw, which means that it has not been stripped of a lot of the nutrients that are in it, similar to organic milk, or versus just a whole milk. There's different processing methods that remove some of the nutritional content. So you'll find that when you read that label and look a little deeper into the products, you're going to find a little healthier food. Now, both these recipes are heart healthy in their nature, but it's the ingredients and the cooking methods that oftentimes make things more healthful. As opposed to deep frying these sprouts, we're going to roast them in the oven. A lot less fat content, and in turn reduces cholesterol, and that's great for the heart. So, all right, so let's talk about what goes into these Brussels sprouts and the ingredients that are going to be in there. 5 simple ingredients. Balsamic vinegar, which is ultra flavorful, has kind of a sweet and sour flavor profile to it. Good old ground black pepper. Sea salt. Now, what is the difference between sea salt and regular salt? It is not iodized. So that when iodized salt is going to have, iodine added to it, which is there, to help a person's intake, to help a person get those nutrients, because it's difficult to get that in other places. But sea salt is just what it sounds like. It comes from the sea. They take seawater, they let it evaporate, and it melts. It melts down differently. It is going to, you can get it in all different kinds of grains. So this is a fine grain. You can get it, chunky. It looks like little crystals, or you can get it, it'll look like flakes sometimes. But sea salt brings a little different flavor profile, and it is very pure. So you're not getting, again, all those added things that you might find in table salt. And then, we talked about the raw honey as well. You could use any honey that you like, but I would recommend this from a health standpoint and from a flavor profile. Whatever the honey is made from, whatever those honeybees found. So if the orange blossoms, then the honey has a little different flavor to it. And this is from a local farm, and this is actually orange blossom honey, and has a very complex orange note to it. So I think it's going to go well with the sprouts. And then let's talk about oil. Now, the oil that we're using for this is just olive oil. Now, again, oils are fats, all of them. So extra virgin olive oil. What is the difference between extra virgin olive oil and just olive oil? Extra virgin olive oil comes from the very first pressing, the very first time that they've squeezed those grapes, and it has never been heated up. So it still retains a lot of the fat that is strained out. So the more that it's pressed, the little different flavor fat content that it has, but those are healthy fats, similar to what you would get in walnuts and things of that nature. So olive oil, so the fat that's in olive oil is actually good for your system, and in place of saturated fats, definitely preferable. We're also going to talk about a couple other different oils with other recipe. Avocado oil. So you can get oil from all sorts of things. So avocado oil has a much higher smoke point, as well as being healthful and low in a lot lower in cholesterol versus a shortening or other canola oil, things like that. So what does a smoke point mean? It means that you can heat it up to a higher temperature, and in cooking, the higher temperature, the more the better sear that you're going to get on that chicken, or the better sear that you're going to get on the product, and in turn get a lot different finished product. So let's dive right in. So this recipe, honey balsamic roasted sprouts, 3 pounds of sprouts, and we're doing a 1 pound version just here. So we've adjusted the amounts in the recipe. Recipes are just a guideline. A lot of people will say, well, the recipe didn't call for it. Well, what ultimately tells you what needs to be in the recipe? You decide what your taste. You want to always be tasting. You may decide that, that's really sour. I don't want 3 tablespoons of vinegar. Maybe I just want 1 tablespoon. But the first time that you make something, it's a good place to start. But your palate and the needs for the final product, if you're trying to limit salt content, then if you want to stay in a healthy vein, then you want to put half the salt and then test it and see what you think of it.
The kind of hot topics are things called patient-specific implants and instruments, which is where we use imaging like CT scans and MRIs to measure people's bone and look at the shapes of their bones, and then make implants and devices we use to implant the knee or hip replacement based on that particular person. And just about every company has that available, and people use it to varying degrees just based on, again, the patient's anatomy and whether there's some reason that you really need that extra assistance. There's also robotics that is starting to come out into the orthopedic world that's been in the general surgery world for a while now. We're starting to use robotic arms to do things like to help us make the cuts and shape the bone so the implants fit well.
Here at Stepping Stone, you are never alone. If you or someone you know has been a victim of child abuse, please call our fully confidential crisis number at 478-595-8339.
The ingredients in this are going to be Brussels sprouts. We're going to cut the ends and slice in half. Olive oil, sea salt, black pepper, balsamic vinegar, and raw honey. So, to process the sprouts, very simply, you're going to cut the butt off. You want to cut as close to the end as you can because that's going to get you more bang for your buck. This is the only part you're going to throw away. Now these leaves are going to fall off somewhat. What I would do is save these and take those and blanch those, and you can fold those into mashed potatoes, and gives them a beautiful look and changes the flavor and gets a little more nutritional content. But simple as cut it in half, and that's it. So that's all that you need to do to them. Again, we're going to slice off that butt. We're going to cut them in half. You can take these loose leaves and throw them in as well, or you can save them, put them on the side. It's your kitchen. You can do however you please. So we're going to go through these. Could you cut them smaller? Could you cut them 2 times and cut them in 4 pieces? It's up to you. It's your kitchen. A lot of times I've taken these, and then you'll get a little smaller piece. I've taken these and made coleslaw out of them. So you can take them and shred them up and get the same effect as you would either way. Okay. They're internally very attractive. They look like little baby cabbages. They have this stem inside. It's much more tender, but something that this recipe doesn't call for, and a little cooking tip or secret, would be to blanch them. So what is to blanch vegetables? What are we even talking about? So boiling salted water. Okay, so when you blanch, you're going to take these. You would take these sprouts, and this is what we did with our finished product that we're going to finish with today. You would take these, you would dump these into that boiling water once it's at a rolling boil. Depending on the size that you cut them, obviously if you cut them smaller, they're going to cook a little faster. These are going to take a little longer. At my mother's table, she only cut the butt off, and she would serve them whole. There's no right or wrong. Just there's just different methods to get to the same place. So you would dump them in this boiling water. You would let them sit until fork tender. So you're going to cook them about halfway through. At which point you're going to strain them out, and you're going to shock them in ice water. And it needs to be ice water. Why ice water? Because you want the rapid change from hot to cold. That's going to stop the cooking process, and that's going to set the color. So those of us that have ever tried to cook Brussels sprouts at home or cook broccoli, you will sometimes find that broccoli turns out kind of army green, it's overcooked. It's gotten to this place. Well, it's gotten away from me. How is it this same broccoli that I just bought at the store, the local restaurant is serving, and it's vibrant and green and bright? It's because they were blanching and shocking those vegetables. So that's a nice little cooking tip. with which to run this recipe, because ultimately you're going to slice these up just like we just did. Okay, you're going to take your extra virgin olive oil. You're going to dress those. We got our salt, sea salt, our pepper. Okay. Balsamic vinegar. There are different versions of balsamic vinegar. There's white, there's dark. They have different flavor profiles. Which one is the right one to use? Only you can decide. And then we have our honey. Okay. Now that looks tasty already. You're gonna take that, you're gonna toss it through. Wanting to coat all of the Brussels sprouts, all the sides as well. Okay. Then you're gonna take those. You could do exactly as we just did. You could put them in a bowl and you could wait till the next day. So you could do this ahead of time. If you've got family coming over, it will not hurt them at all. As a matter of fact, they will soak up more flavor. Once you got those all coated and tossed, you're gonna take your pan. We're gonna take a little bit. Now, let's take a look at the difference between these two. This is avocado oil, which we're going to use on the next recipe. And this is olive oil. So you can see there's a little different color. There's a little different viscosity between the two. They pour differently and they have different fat contents. I encourage everybody, do a little research, see what's out there. There are lots and lots of options. We're gonna take a little bit of oil. We're gonna coat this pan. I'm gonna roll these sprouts out. You want to spread them nice and evenly. Okay. And take those and slide those in the oven. The recipe calls for 350. You can turn them up if you like. If you want to get a little more char on them, cook them a little faster. But after about 25 minutes or so, this is what you're going to end up with. They're going to have this beautiful color to them. They have soaked up all that liquid, and they are going to be sweet and salty. That's one of my favorite flavor profiles. Sweet and salty makes everybody happy, and they are delicious. And it is not mystical. It just takes a little practice. So don't be afraid to get out there and give these a shot.
Good morning, this is Kyle Gerard with A+ Flooring and Construction. I'm standing in a home that we recently renovated for a customer. The kitchen is a very vital part of a home, especially when you get ready to resell or just you like to entertain people. We came in with new granite countertops. We even changed some of the seating areas of it. We refinished all the cabinets, put new doors, new hardware. We can use your existing cabinets. One of the things that we did that changed the look of this kitchen was the lighting that we did. We added a lot of LED spotlights, went from an old oak, gunstock, hardwood floor to a new hickory, random length floor. We can change it from top to bottom. Lots of many pretty things that we've done. Come by and see us at A+ Flooring and Construction at 1801 Rice Avenue in Dublin, Georgia, or give us a call at 478-676-2662. Hope to see you soon.
The City of Dublin Natural Gas provides the most cost-efficient source of energy available today. So for your home, choose the most natural resource. Safe, clean, efficient. All new subdivisions around the Dublin area have natural gas available. Start reducing your energy bills today with Dublin City Natural Gas Department. Natural gas, the smart choice. Call 277-5048 today and let us help you start saving today.
All right, so let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit more about a recipe that I think everyone will enjoy. So let's talk about what that is. So we talked about sourcing us a local chicken, and a whole chicken is something that a lot of people are afraid of. So what we're going to talk about here today is how you're going to choose, what you're looking for, how to break it down, and then again how to finish this recipe. The recipe we're going to do is going to be a garlic roast herb chicken. It's going to have roasted garlic cloves. We're going to use an avocado oil. We're going to use some fresh lemon, fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, pepper, and some sea salt. And that's all that's going to go into it. So First things first. You go to the store and you go to look for a chicken. What are you looking for? Okay. So you want to look at it. You're looking for the color, right? You're looking for the texture. Is it firm? Obviously, chicken in its in its raw form. A lot of that the skin's gonna have a yellow content to it. You want to give it a smell. What does it smell like? It smells nice and fresh. And this is a 2.5 pound chicken. You can get them as large as you go. Any of this recipe will work however you would like to go forward with that. You're just gonna have to cook it a little bit longer. So again, we talked about, how are we gonna make our dollar go further these days? What you're gonna pay for a whole bird is gonna be much, much cheaper than what you're gonna pay for a chicken that somebody else has already cut up. But how do I cut this bird up? What do I do with it? So this recipe that we're gonna do, we're going to sear this chicken. What is to sear? What are we talking about? So the whole reason to sear it is you want to put color on the outside and you want to sear the outside so that it locks the juices in. And not only is it going to impart caramelization, is where the color comes from. Everything has sugar in it, including chicken, including this roasted garlic that we roasted. And so we're going to talk about how to sear that, why you sear it, and then we're going to put it on this roasting rack. Now, you could roast this bird whole, just as is. You could season up the outside, salt and pepper it, roast it whole, similar to the chicken that you'll find at the grocery store that come out of the rotisserie oven. But you're going to do it yourself. You're going to put those extra dollars in your pocket, and you're going to be able to enjoy that at home with something that you managed yourself, okay? So, how do we break this bird down? We're going to lay him on his back, okay? Now, chicken bones are not like beef bones or pork bones even. They're very, very soft. So you want to be very assertive as you go through this process, okay? So you're going to lay him on his back, get him nice and square. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut straight through the breastbone and we're going to remove the spine, okay? So we're going to find a spot right here. We're going to take our tip of our knife. We're going to go down and we're going to press straight through. Okay? Then I get down to that spine. You're going to let your knife find it. And you're just going to push one time straight through it. If you start to hack at it, the bones are so soft they'll start to splinter and it's hard to find your way. So again, over on this side, this is the spine that we're removing. You're going to put that tip down one time, straight down through it. It helps to have a good sharp knife, and a little bit of practice is needed. Now, that spine, we're not going to throw that away. That's not waste at all. That's the magic of what we're doing here because we're going to get 100% utilization out of this. Okay, so now that we split the bird in half, I'm going to turn it on its side. We're going to find this joint where the thigh meets the breast. We're going to separate those two. Again, we're going to come in, tip of the knife down, push forward one good time, and that's going to separate, and that's going to give you your chicken thigh. Now we got our breast and our wing. Now we could separate these even further and take this wing off here, and then suddenly you have a chicken wing. All right? Just straight through this piece here and go. You could take this drum and this thigh and separate them as well. And now you have your drum, your thigh, your wing, and your breast. Okay? Those are all going to cook at different rates, which is another reason why you want to separate them. Obviously, that chicken wing is going to cook a lot faster than this breast is. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing on this side. Tip down and press through one time. We're going to take off that thigh and that drum, leaving our breast and our wing. Tip down and go. Okay? And we'll just leave this one together because we're going to use that to demo what we're going to do next. Now, as I said, this is 100% yield. So what do we do with this? If you take this and put it into a soup pot, as my grandmother did, you're going to take that, you're going to boil that with celery, carrots, and onions, some seasoning, some fresh herbs, and you're going to make the most flavorful chicken stock that you can, and you use every bit of that. There's all kinds of flavor locked in these bones. There's all kinds of fat that can be derived from the skin. You can make chicken soup out of it, or you could just take it, cool it down, and keep it for another dish. The same thing that we go to the store and pay for. Very simply, a little bit of time and a little bit of practice, you can put that money in your pocket. And obviously, when you make these things at home, we talk about, keeping the cooking healthy and what's good for the heart. Sodium is definitely not good for the heart. And anytime you buy something from the store, 9 times out of 10, they have put some sort of preservative in it to keep it on that shelf, to keep it, and sodium is where that comes from. So if you're trying to limit those things, doing it yourself is one good way to do so. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. We've talked about breaking the chicken down. Let's move on to the recipe, okay? So we have a hot pan over here. Got a hot pan over here on just over medium heat, okay? So in order to get a good sear, you definitely want that heat to be up. So what are we looking for when we take our oil? Now this recipe, as we set it up here, this was to do the entire bird, okay? So this should be enough avocado oil, again, which is it has healthier fats and is the reason why this is a heart healthy recipe. This should be enough oil to sear all this chicken. Okay. Now, oil goes through stages. You know, when it's at room temperature, it's going to look a certain way. You're going to see immediately that it's going to start to expand as it heats up, and we see that there starts to be some steam coming off of it, or smoke. That's a good thing when you're going for a sear. That's also going to tell you that pan is good and hot. If you put it in there and you do not see any growth in the oil, your pan is too cold. A lot of time people are going to say to you, well, you know, I did everything that I was supposed to, but it looks so different. You have to pay attention to what that oil looks like. You see, as you take it off the heat, suddenly that smoke goes away. Now it's still heating through, but I think that we're at just about the right place. So let's talk about the other components of the recipe. We're going to sear this chicken. But we have some fresh herbs. A place that people go wrong with using fresh herbs is you have to heat those herbs up. They have essential oils in them, just like you can buy at the store and anything else. If you do not heat these herbs through, you're not going to release that. Okay, so we're going to start this out by putting these herbs in. Okay, and we're going to get some action right off the bat. So what's going on here? By cooking those herbs, we are flavoring that oil. We are getting all those essential oils to be extracted. Okay, so how long do we cook them? It depends on what you're doing. Now, we could go in behind this with that chicken for the sear as well. It's up to you. What you're going to start to get when it gets aromatic, when you start to smell. The more that you can smell those herbs, the more oil that's being extracted. Okay? Okay? So just that long, just 30 seconds or so, and you're going to start to get what you're looking for. Okay? That way you can pick those things out. Now you could chop these things up and rub them all over the chicken. But then when you go to roast them, they're going to burn over time. So I would encourage you to leave them whole so that they're easier to remove from your final product before you go to roast them. Because roasting is going to take some time. A whole bird like this at 350 degrees is going to take somewhere upwards of 45 to 50 minutes. Depends on your oven, but it's going to take a little more time than you think it is. Okay? So let's get back to our chicken. I'm going to salt and pepper it. Okay. We've already got the oil in the pan heating up. Okay.
Whether you're a Braves fan or a Dogs fan, it feels good to be a winner. I'm Don Carswell, and you'll have fun with a winning deal from Dublin Chevy Nissan. Come and see our championship selection of new and pre-owned trucks here at Dublin Chevy Nissan. Titan or Frontier, it's your choice. Sierra or Silverado, you're the winner. For the W, all you have to do is call, click, or come in. And remember, Don sells cars well, only at Dublin Chevy Nissan.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dustin Gay. I'm a local orthopedic surgeon with Houston Clinic Orthopedics, and we'd really like to invite everybody to come out to our new office facility to take a look at it. It's a larger space with physical therapy, and we're just excited to have it, and we'd love for people to come out and visit us.
Come by and see us today at our brand new location, the Houston Clinic, Medical Drive in Dublin.
All right, so we got those herbs working. They are very fragrant, bringing out those essential oils. They should be getting nice and dark as well. So that chicken is just about ready to go in there to sear. So we're gonna go in here, pull these herbs out. Some people will tie them together in a real fancy French word, sachet de spice. Just bundle of herbs is all it is. Tie them up so they're easier to get out. There we have it. So we have this chicken. It's beautiful farm-raised chicken that we've got here. Now we're gonna sear. Now we're gonna sear skin side down. Fat, all the fat is in the skin. We wanna make sure that we render that out. Get it nice and crisp and brown before we go to roast it. We see that our oil has got some steam coming off of it, making a little bit of smoke. That's a good thing. We're gonna go in with the big pieces first. That's the sound you should hear. If you do not hear that sound when you go in with this chicken, that oil is not nearly hot enough. You're gonna drop those in there. You do not want to overcrowd that pan. You want to make sure that you leave a little bit of room. Okay? We're just gonna let those work. You may find that you need to adjust your temperature. You want to keep those nice bubbles going. You want to hear that sizzle. So let's talk about what we're going to do here on this sheet pan. This is a roasting rack. I highly recommend them. A lot of times they look like, what people cool cookies on if you make cookies at home. But a roasting rack is going to lift that bird up, and it's going to allow circulation to come from underneath. It's going to allow air to get all around it. So you get a nice even cook, nice and brown. Okay? Now this recipe, if you read through it, it calls to run without a roasting rack. And to take these lemons and this garlic, and you're going to build a roasting rack on this sheet on this pan. We're blessed to have one, so we're going to go ahead and put it on top. But we're going to take these lemons and pretend as though we didn't. Now, what the citrus is going to do is it heats up. The essential oils in this are going to loosen up, and they're going to steam through that chicken. We're also going to take this garlic. Going to put that right on top of there raw. And then that's going to soak up all the juices from that chicken as it cooks through into these items. Now, I pre-roasted some garlic here. This is what it will look like if you just take it in a little bit of oil and put it in the oven and let it go slowly. Oh yeah, we're looking good. That's a nice trick because you can control. Whereas this, you may not be able to control it. As garlic cooks, it gets nice and sweet. You always want to make sure that you never use garlic raw. Always cook it through, it gets nice and sweet. Now we're getting some good color on these. We're a couple seconds out. Again, you want to use all your senses when you're cooking. You want to smell. You want to listen. Okay? You want to use your eyes. You want to see what kind of color we're getting. Is that dark enough? Maybe not. If it's not, well, maybe we need to turn it up a little bit. Maybe it needs a little more time. Sometimes people use another pan to press them down, because as you put a little bit of press on this, it's going to get you a quicker sear, but it's also going to press the juices out. So I don't recommend that. I recommend managing the heat. A thick pan is gonna have more residual heat. Cast iron soaks up that heat, and it holds up to the temperature drop that naturally happens when you drop this chicken in here. But as you see, that skin's starting to turn brown. It's starting to seize up a little bit. We're starting to get some good color. Okay? Now sear, which is what we're doing. High heat with the fat in the pan. Avocado oil here. What is a sear? A sear would be similar to cauterizing a wound. If you were out in the woods and you cut yourself, you took a piece of iron and heated it up in the fire and cauterized that wound to close it shut. That's what we're doing to this chicken. We're cauterizing the outside to seal in the juice so that all the liquid doesn't come running out of there, which is why it's beautiful to do a full chicken roast, because it's going to retain even more of that moisture. Here it's all going in the pan, and we can take this juice and we can pour it over once we transfer to roast. Now you're the chef. You're going to decide how long you want to let it go. There is no right or wrong in the kitchen. You're going to decide. You're going to decide when it's time. Breast and wings obviously have a little less fat, so we're going to cook them a little less. Whereas with these thighs, the fat content And these may require a little more cooking. Now I'll tell you old kitchen trick, something to understand. Wherever the handle is on your pan, the opposite side here is always going to be the hottest. This handle is conducting the heat out of this pan. So if you want to get some good color on something, you're going to want to scoot it to the front of that pan. Move it away from the handle. Also, let's say you were making a nice sauce here. You never want to take that whisk or spoon and leave it in that product because it is conducting the heat out. So if you want to bring it to a boil, take it out, set it on the side. All right, so we're going to cut that off. I'm going to bring it back to us. I think we're where we need to be. That's what I'm looking for there, and we're going to take these chicken thighs, place them like so, kind of prop them up. Now again, just imagine that you don't have this roasting rack, and you've got all this citrus underneath here. That's going to do you well. Okay. Now we're going to take all this rendered fat in this oil. We're going to go ahead and help that garlic and lemon a little bit, because you don't want to waste a drop. You paid good money for all these ingredients. You want to make sure you get your money's worth. Okay. Now we will take this. We're going to slide this into the oven. Every oven is different. You know, if it says 350 for 45 minutes, you're going to need to check that. I personally recommend a thermometer. A thermometer is going to give you a very accurate internal cooking temperature. Poultry should be cooked to 165 to be internally safe. But there's something called carryover cooking. So I'm not going to cook this chicken to 165 inside this oven. I'm going to take it to about 155. And then I'm going to take it out, I'm going to let it rest. Resting is ultra important because you want to let that product cool back down and soak up those residual juices. And that's going to render you, when you go to cut into it, if you let it rest for 10 or 15 minutes, it's going to be definitely a more plump, juicy product. But in that time, while the temperature is resting at 155, it is going to continue to heat up. It's going to continue, the temperature is going to continue to rise, and it's going to get to that 165 that we're looking for. Now, my grandmother always took a knife and she would cut it down the bone and check that bone and see what it looked like. There's more than one way to get this done. I'm just sharing some tips, a little bit of knowledge that I think will help people at home when they put these together. So here we go. We're ready to go in this oven. All right. Again, in the magic of the kitchen, we just so happen to have a bird ready to go. Now this is a whole bird as opposed to breaking it into pieces and searing it. You will definitely notice a difference when it comes time to cut it. Again, here's a smaller roasting rack. There's lots of different ways to go. So carving this bird is very, very similar to what we did in the raw state earlier. We're going to take it out. In an optimum place, we are going to let it rest. Okay? For 10 to 15 minutes. The bigger the item, the longer the rest. You know, your Thanksgiving turkey, 20 minutes at least. You should do nothing to that turkey for 20 minutes. So that you allow it to soak all the way back down. Okay? Now, when it comes time to cut, just as we did before, we're going to line this bird up. We're going to find that breastplate. We're going to put the tip of the knife down. Find that breastplate at one good time, straight through. Just like that. Okay? We're going to turn him on his side. We're going to find where the thigh runs up against this breast, right through that skin, right on an angle, one time. Okay? Same thing over here. I'm going to take the rest of that spine out. Now we talked about earlier keeping that spine, using that for stock, so on and so forth. Even at a roasted state, you can still do the same thing. It's going to flavor your stock a little bit differently, but it's still totally usable. Again, I'm going to come across here, cut him up, and we're good to go. So there is your chicken in a 4-way cut. And you could take it down a little further if you like. So let's go through that. If you want to separate this thigh from this drum, find that joint, one time push through. Okay? This breast from this wing, right behind that wing, one time. And there's your wing, breast, so on and so forth. Okay? So there is how to roast that chicken, carve it through. We're gonna reserve all these pan drippings. I like to take these and I'll take a little bit of water or a little bit of white wine. Take that, put that on there, and then heat those up on that same burner. You're gonna come behind that with your grandmother's wooden spoon, scrape all those goodies off. That's where all the flavor is, okay? Scrape all those off, get all those off there real good, pour that over that chicken. You don't want to waste a drop. So that is lemon garlic roasted chicken. And then we're gonna come get with that with our Brussels sprouts. We're gonna take those Brussels sprouts that we produced. We're gonna make sure that we put those on the bottom so that they can soak up the juice from this chicken. We're gonna take these pan drippings as they start to heat up, and it doesn't take very long. We'll take these pan drippings and we're gonna pour those over the chicken and over those Brussels sprouts. So you've got a sweet and savory with the honey and balsamic vinegar and the richness of this chicken. And I really do hope everybody's enjoyed this time. And I sure have enjoyed being able to come out and share some of these things with you. And I wish everyone a healthy and happy Heart Health Month. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.